Hello, loves. Welcome to my live stream. It is Khethiwe here, Abundance Priestess, and we're going to talk about codependency and how that might be messing up your money vibration, your money frequency. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation because this is coming up in my life at a deeper layer. I'm just going to let people kind of see this video here. Yeah, this is coming up at a deeper layer in my life, and it's showing itself in other areas that I see for people. It's showing itself, obviously in money, but codependency is a thing, right? With a lot of aspects of our lives. So, of course, I'm going to be talking about money here and abundance here, but this can be, applied to other areas. So, say hello on the replay. Let me know how you're doing when you hop on. I love hearing from you. So what exactly am I talking about, right? Like codependency. So a lot of the time when people approach money manifesting, and I am guilty of this as well, right? This lesson's for me as much as it is for you. When people approach money manifesting, it's like this filling a need, right? We often approach it from I need money. I don't have money, I need money, right? So of course this can be lack focus. It's like the overarching energy of that is lack, right? I don't have what I want, or I don't have enough of it. I don't have it in the way that I would like it. It's not to my preferences or standards, right? Or not whatever, to the degree that I want to experience it. So I'm in lack, so therefore I'm going to start manifesting money and create more of it, right? Let me know if you can relate to that, right? It's a natural thing. When you don't have something, you have a desire, and a desire, comes in. Now, there is a line between desire and a need, right? And money is so interesting because there are so many aspects to it, and, it can be very much argued that we do need money, right? So how can we not be codependent with something that society is codependent on, right? Like our society runs on money, our society runs on funds and finances and all these kind of things, right? And it's like, yeah, well, I have to pay my bills. I have to pay for the roof over my head. I've got to pay for the clothes and right? The vacation and the blah, 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 right? It's money, money, money. And so this, of course, only compounds the codependency, right? Because society is codependent on like the literal tangible bills and coins and numbers, ones and zeros that travel the world and exchange hands. But what I'm talking about specifically here is the root codependency, right? It's the energy of codependency. So you can have a need and you can require money, you can require funds, right? That can be a very real thing, but not feel energetically codependent to it. And that's what I'm talking about here. So basically, codependency is, you can't exist fully without something, right? And often we hear this word being talked about in regards to relationships, right? Like this person's codependent on their partner, on their spouse, on their whatever, right? And we can be that way with other aspects, right? Including money. So, we all know people, or maybe we've been the kind of people that are like in relationships, oh my God, if my partner isn't giving me, enough attention, I don't feel okay, right? If my partner isn't doing X, Y, Z, I don't feel okay. If they're not in my life, I don't feel okay, right? And this is where we see people who are, there are degrees to this, obviously, but in extreme cases, right, it's people that are codependent would rather be with people and rather just have someone in their life rather than like be in a healthy union, right? Rather than being with the person maybe down the line that would actually be more of a match to them. Somebody who is like, I have to be with this person no matter what because they're filling a need that I can't live without, right? So even if the relationship isn't the best, even if I know ultimately it isn't for my highest and best timeline, and at a deep level I know it isn't like the long-term thing, because I have codependency issues in relationships, like you're more likely to stay, you're more likely to put up with bad treatment, you're more likely to put up with bullshit, right? Say hi in the comments when you hop on, guys. Welcome to the live stream. So that's an easy way to kind of understand codependency. We see it in relationships, right? And these patterns start often when we're very, very young, right? So that's one area. And the fastest way to find the aligned soulmate relationships, right, ironically, is when you stop being codependent with people to fulfill your base needs, right? Now, again, there's nuance to this conversation. There are exceptions, there are details that maybe, I can't really go into, right? But ideally, it's like you want to approach life where you fill your own cup, essentially, right? So I'm talking about relationships at first, but we'll get into the money because I feel relationships will just be a good, intro to this. But, we have to really fill our own buckets here, right? That is the ultimate goal, especially if you're somebody who's awakening or awakened, or you're somebody who's on the path, you're on a spiritual journey. It's really about coming back to wholeness and unity and understanding that you are all things, right? You are all experiences, you are all people, experiencing yourself, experiencing others, right? So especially if you're that kind of person, this really does apply, right? So in relationships, if you are waiting on a person to fulfill you, that's codependency in whatever way, to whatever degree. Now, of course, as human beings, we do have a deep need for support, for community, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's like we get to kind of understand both worlds here. But I think you can understand what I'm trying to say when it comes to like an unhealthy balance of, oh my God, if this person doesn't love me, I'm nothing, right? Or if this person doesn't approve of me or do things in a certain way, I'm worthless. If, right, you're looking at people to show you that you're good enough, that you're worthy of love, that you can be, supported, right? So one person's perspective of you or treatment of you doesn't negate who you actually are, right? But in codependent existences and relationships, we overly give your power away or see yourself through other people's eyes. So if somebody can't fully appreciate you or fully show up for you, or they just are not meant for you, therefore it's just not going to work out, whatever, no matter what you do, you take that as a personal attack. You take that as something like, I'm not good enough, I'm lacking in some way, instead of just seeing it like, well, maybe this person's just not ideal for me. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe they're not available for love. Doesn't mean that I'm not lovable. Doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. Doesn't mean that I don't have the chance of creating this family unit or whatever it is that your goals are, or just having that love and support, right? That doesn't mean anything, right? Somebody's treatment of you, someone's perception of you doesn't mean that you are not worthy of love or capable of having a happy relationship or etc., right? That's what I'm talking about. Of course, as human beings, we want to be in a community and we want to feel loved overall, and that is not a bad thing. I'm talking about when you need it from a certain person or are, overly attached to seeing yourself through other people's eyes, right? Jessamine says, hi. Oh, yes, juicy. Awesome. Welcome to the live stream. I'm so glad you're here. So now, fun fact, right? When I finally, 7-8 years ago now, when I got out of my last relationship, I'm in a relationship now, right? But my last relationship, at the end of that, I really realized how much that I had given my power away in terms of wanting to make the other person happy, right? So I was in a bit of a codependency situation, not realizing it because I wasn't fully, awake like I am now. But at least I began to awaken at the end of that relationship, and I was like, I'm doing things here that I don't want to do to make somebody else happy, because I don't want to lose a person, because I don't want to lose love in my life, right? So I was codependent on that relationship for just the feeling of love and feeling like, I'm good enough. And I realized that I was compromising values. I was compromising, ethics. I was compromising who I really was. I was editing what I said. I wasn't being authentically me, right? So when that relationship ended, I really decided I'm going to just go forward and enjoy my life. I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm not looking for somebody new. I'm going to just be in my own energy and have fun with my girls and work and focus on my professional goals and just really make myself better and really find, all of those feelings and feelings of worth and love and support and I'm good enough. All of that I decided was going to come from me, right? And I truly meant it, right? I truly meant what I said. And then, of course, few months later, I meet my soulmate, right? Because I wasn't looking for that. All right. I stopped being codependent in relationships to that degree. Now, I also had to kind of go through that with a family member, you know, very much an empath. Like I was playing the empath role and they were playing the narcissist role. And I had that dynamic for years with a family member. And I had to realize that like I wasn't going to get what I wanted from this person. Like I was never going to get the approval, right? I was never going to get the love and the way that I wanted it to be shown from this person. And it was a very hard pill to swallow, but it was very necessary for my growth and to end that codependency in that unhealthy dynamic that I had going on, right? Now, these things that I'm talking about are not easy, right? But from there, I was able to really claim my power back, and it really shifted a lot in my life. Like, it's hard to even explain taking my power back from that relationship, like how that's impacted me. It's like I now feel so much more free to speak my mind, to be in my truth, to know that I can accept myself. I don't need acceptance from this person anymore. So I'm free, right? I feel free. I feel liberated. It just opened up all areas of my life. Like it's profound what this work does. So coming to money has a lot of codependency ties for most people in society, right? Like 99% of people, and even people that, you know, pretend to reject money or pretend that they don't want money or whatever, even those people, right? There is codependency energy attached to money, right? Now, again, we can need money because our society runs on money, right? Like as a fact, as a logical thing. But at an underneath level, at an energetic level, we don't want to be projecting, I need money to be okay, right? So I have cleared quite a few layers, and let me know in the comments if you can relate to anything I'm talking about, relationships or the money thing, right? And like, please comment. I love hearing from you. I love interacting with you guys. So don't be shy. So it's a matter of like, okay, so where am I being codependent on money overly so, right? Like let's separate the need to pay your rent, right? Like that's over here. That's just a fact, right? But I'm talking about the energy, the emotional attachments that we have to money. What are you seeking money for, right? Underneath it all, you can say, okay, I want to get whatever. We kind of start off with these tangible things. I want to get my hair done. I want to get my nails done. I want to go on vacation. I want to pay the bills. I want to, right? Okay, fine. But go deeper. Like, what do you really want money for? Especially if you're somebody who's been like really trying to manifest money and maybe you feel like you're obsessing over it. You feel like it's something you can't let go of. It's not something you can just surrender. It's like you're overly trying to create more and maybe you just keep hitting roadblock after roadblock, right? Like this can be a little bit of a clue here, but you probably have some codependency if you're obsessed with making more money. If you're like, I have to hit this goal at a certain time frame, or I've been doing this for so long, like where is it, right? It's like, oh, I thought I saw a spider on my ceiling. I was like, oh, this can be a vibe. Now, for me on my journey, I definitely have had very obvious codependency with money. Now, the first layer that I already cleared was around safety, right? So I felt like I had to have money to feel safe, right? Because there have been so many moments in my past that I genuinely felt fear because of a lack of money, right? Fear that I wasn't going to have money to eat, fear that I was going to be evicted, fear that, you know, right? There's a lot of fear that I had intertwined with money. And it felt like my physical safety was on the line, right? Now, even if I had situations where that was a fact, I was still carrying that emotion throughout my life, right? When it came to money for a long time. So it's like, even if I wasn't going to like quote unquote end up homeless and hungry under a bridge, that was the energy that my body was carrying. That was the dominant energy that I felt towards money, right? So in that state, it's like the codependency I had with money was I need money to feel safe. And it was a very like visceral response in my body. I felt it, the constricting, the tightness, the fear, the heart racing, right? I would sometimes have panic attacks. I would literally be up all night thinking about money. And how, you know, not in a good way, not in a manifesting it way, but in a, you know, I'm afraid and I'm worried. And it kind of didn't matter how much money that I had, right? Like even when I was working a lot and was making decent money, right? Comparatively, maybe to somebody else it wasn't decent, but in my mindset and where I come from, decent money, I was still afraid, right? Because I carried that. So I was depending on money to make me feel safe. So like the first big layer of codependency that I have cleared and since have cleared, I very rarely feel unsafe anymore because I know how to source safety, the feeling of safety, separate from money, regardless of what's in my account or not. Right. And, I've seen this pattern too in people that have a lot of money too. It's not just about people that don't have money. I've seen people with a lot of money, millions of dollars even, who don't feel safe. Right? That's codependent on money to make you feel safe. That is, out of balance. That's not in alignment, right? To feel that way, especially when you're like, I factually have millions, right? Even when you have almost nothing, you still can feel safe separate from money. So that was the first level, right? And it was a big one for me. And I had to really source safety separate from money. And that felt like a near impossible task at the time. It felt like, how the fuck am I going to do this? How am I going to feel differently than I feel now? It felt so like I was climbing Mount Everest, honestly. But I did it, right? And now it's like I don't have those panic attacks around money. I can't remember the last time I felt fear in a long time. Like fear, right? Like, of course, mild anxiety or like a worry, I think is normal here and there, right? But like the fear that I used to feel, I haven't felt that in a long time because I source safety separate from money, right? I'm no longer codependent to money for safety, right? I just want to make sure that I'm clarifying myself as we go. Hi, Carrie. Welcome. How are you? Are you fresh from your vacation? Welcome back. How are you doing? Yeah. So, just kind of have your wheels turning as you're watching this. Like, if things are pinging for you, right? And if you feel like sharing, please do. How are you, connecting to money and going, I need money to make me feel this way? Now, self-worth was another thing that I was codependent on money for a while. Not anymore, but I was, right? So I felt like I'm not good enough until I have a certain number in my bank account, right? Who can relate to that? And that came from the wounding of like wanting to prove myself again, because I grew up without having a lot of money, right? And I felt very ashamed and very less than for it internally. It was really more about the pressures and the meanings I made about myself more than anybody else. Like it really was more about myself and my own internal world than the outside world projecting that at me overall. But it just felt so heavy. Like I'm not good enough until I make this money. So it felt like I was on this rat race, this wheel, this hamster wheel to like create a lump sum so that finally I'll be good enough, right? That would mean that I'm good enough. If I finally have the money that I didn't have, I'm good enough. I'm enough, right? So I was codependent with my self-worth and money, right? So safety, check. Finally cleared that. Self-worth, check. Finally cleared that. Now those two were huge, right? And so my energy lightened up around money and things began to open up and business got easier, right? It wasn't like perfect, but I definitely felt like the up level every time, right? Every time I like self-sourced something from money and took back my power, there was a clear up level and a clear lightening of my energy, and it made things much easier, right? Because I went from a space of like being super avoidant with money and like not being able to like even check my meal or check my bank account without feeling, anxiety or shame, right? Like I had so much shit to work through. I'm telling you guys, like this is like my thing. Like I work through almost everything when it comes to money. So it's like I finally was able to clear out that gunk and be okay with things, even if they weren't how I want them to look, right? It's like I finally was able to just kind of objectively look at my account and not make a meeting out of it. Look at, check the mail and not be afraid, right? Deal with a phone call from the bank and not be ashamed or whatever. Or even simple things like swiping my card when I paid for something before, I would have this fear of like, fuck, it's going to get declined. Like, this is so embarrassing. I'm so ashamed, right? And then, that would come up every time I paid for something. Like every time, like doesn't matter if it was like a $2 coffee or, a $300 shopping trip. Like it was the same feeling like, fuck, like what if it gets declined? Even if I logically knew there was money in there, I was always worried. I was always hyper vigilant, hyper aware because of my past experiences, right? So it's like I began to see how shifting these energies and self-sourcing safety and self-worth, really began to shift how I saw money, how I approached money, how I felt with money. And as a result, of course, money has been easier for me. I want to hear what you're saying here. A week fresh. Yes, welcome back. I want to go on vacation. I'm trying to plan one here. Carrie, yes, always felt less than the cliquey girls. Mm-hmm. Not being able to buy name brand. Yep, girl. That is such a thing. That is such a thing, right? It's like, well, back when I was in school, it's like, the Dorina jeans and, TNA tracksuits. I don't know if it's just like a West Coast Canada thing, right? Or like the baby fat shoes, like my generation, the cell phones, right? Like laptops were just coming in, like all these fancy gadgets. Like I couldn't have any of them, right? And it can affect your self-esteem and how you see yourself. So thank you for sharing that. That's very, people relate to that completely. Jessamine says, yes, the safety I'm anchoring into this further right now. Deep trust, free from money. Yeah. Yeah. It's a big one. It's a big one. Like, and when I'm saying this, like when I say like I integrated safety and self-worth, it wasn't in a day. Like this didn't happen overnight. This was like, for me, those two were quite like intense. And I was still kind of figuring out how to do it. I didn't actually know. I knew I needed to do it, but I wasn't fully, like, I didn't have all the tools that I have now to fully integrate that and understand what that meant and what that looked like. So, it was a longer, harder journey. Right now, when I find things out, it's like, it doesn't take nearly as long. But that for me took months, like months to fully integrate, right? Because I had been operating in a lackful state and distortion for forever, for 20 plus years, right? So of course, sometimes it's going to take a little bit of time, but with devotion, with the right tools, with the commitment to the process and showing up for yourself, it's all possible, right? In your relationship with money and men, women, whoever you're into, right? All of that. It doesn't matter what category, you can apply this to the categories, right? And so I've helped a lot of people self-source safety because I've kind of mastered that, self-worth as well, right? And so I kind of was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I think I'm beyond this. I think that I'm now not codependent on money, right? I still require it and desire it for the life that I want to live and to obviously take care of things in my life. But I felt like, okay, I got this down. And today, Spirit was like, girl, there's another level to this. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like, I thought I was done. Damn it. Let me know if you can relate. But it's just like, it's a purifying process, right? And especially, like I said earlier, if you're somebody who is spiritual on the path, things are just different for us. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to tell you that you can't manifest money if you're not 100% independent, from money. Like you can manifest money in a state that isn't perfect, right? I want to make that clear. However, for me especially, being an abundance priestess, being somebody who is approaching abundance and money from a very like high vibrational space, like I'm I'm not aligned to creating money in any way that isn't in alignment with my soul. Like, I just can't do it. I literally can't do it. I can't do it. Like, I cannot get a job. I cannot make money in a way that is not in alignment anymore. It's just not possible for me. It's not a thing because of the path that I'm on, right? So this is why it's like I'm being called to purify and purify and purify and purify and purify my energy so it's squeaky clean when it comes to money. And then I help other people walk through things as well. Right? So obviously what I go through, I'm also going to be, reaching a hand out and pulling people along with me. But it has to come from a very pure place for me. There are people on this planet who can make money in a very, unpure way. Right? Because for them, that's not like their lesson or their path. It's not recommended, right? There are consequences to that as well. Like karma escapes nobody. Nobody escapes karma. So if you're creating money in a way that is hurting others or hurting yourself or not in alignment, like karma will come back around, you know, things will reorganize themselves at a certain point, right? So no one can escape that. However, I literally can't even like play in that pool. I can't even dip a toe. I can't dip a toe in that pool. It's just it's not possible for me because of the path that I'm on and the way that I've been going, right? So this is why for me, like, things maybe have taken longer than my ego would like, but it's only because I've had to purify so much on my journey to be a pure vessel and conduit and receiver and circulator of money, right? Because this is a very spiritual journey for me. And maybe it is for you. Let me know if you can relate in the comments. It's a very spiritual journey. This is not just like money, I just make money and whatever. No, like there is a purpose and there is a mission and there is a very powerful, potent energy. And I meant to do this in a very specific way with a very specific energy signature. And again, that's why maybe it's taken me a bit longer to make, you know, the X amount of dollars than maybe somebody else because they don't have this path, right? It's like I'm walking a very specific path here and it's all worth it, right? It's all worth it. And I know that when the floodgates finally materialize, because I feel them so strong. I feel it so strong. Like it's going to be seemingly overnight that I'm just going to pop up on here and be like, yeah, I'm a billionaire. And people are going to be like, where the fuck would that come from? Like, where did this girl come from? Like, I never heard of her until today, right? Like that, like literally, like that's what's going to happen. But it's like, I'm preparing myself for that moment, right? For the moments, right? For the momentum. And this is part of the process, is purifying these attachments and codependency to money, right? So the next thing that Spirit showed me today that I was not consciously aware of and engaging and shifting was codependency when it comes to feeling supported, right? So I was like, oh my God, like, duh, right? Because I have been feeling this massive wave of abundance about to materialize, right? And I did feel like, okay, there's something that I'm not seeing here. There's something that I'm not integrating. But what is it? I felt like I've done so much work. What is it? And it's the codependency to feeling supported, right? Again, this boils back to my childhood, right? Not feeling supported in many ways, not feeling supported emotionally, mentally, spiritually, with my gifts, financially. Like I didn't feel supported in quite a few different areas. And so it makes sense, right? So I didn't feel safe as a kid. Okay, integrated that. Didn't feel worthy. Integrated that. Didn't feel supported. That's next, right? Support and unconditional love is kind of like tied in here that I'm working on next. And so this is why I'm saying, like, for my path to fully receive my escrow, I have to be a pure channel. I have to be a pure vessel. I have to be able to hold this energy and not attach to it, not make it mean anything about me, not make my ego swell up, not make me, you know, change who I am, my value system moving in a different way. Like I have to be so purified that it doesn't matter how much money I have. It's not going to deter me from my spiritual path or make me engage in money in an unhealthy dynamic. Does that make sense? Let me know. Let's see what the comments are. I love comments. Okay, interesting. I feel this in my womb just today, hours before you're live. Yes. Like my next level is feeling relaxed, safe, trusting, and open in my womb. That's beautiful. I love that. Well, then it's true, right? If that's what you're feeling, it's true. So you can totally do that. Carrie says, yes, let's be the money launderer and clean up the money. Exactly. Like that's literally what it is. We are laundering money, right? So I was feeling overly needy, codependent on money to feel supported. Even though there's lots of things in my life where I'm supported. I am so supported by spirit, by soul, by the divine mother, the divine masculine. I am so fucking supported. But I was looking for that support in money and not seeing it in a way that I wanted and making that mean that I'm not supported. Does this make sense? It's like, well, because I don't have like what I was manifesting financially this month or whatever the timeline is, I'm not supported. That was the feeling and the narrative, right? And as long as I continue to engage in that codependent relationship with finances, even though I've cleaned up a lot of the energy, and even though I'm at a much better place, and even though I'm not nearly as codependent as I used to be, there was still a tie, right? And this is life. This is the journey. This is the journey. It's ever unfolding, and you're always discovering new things, right? And so now that I'm aware of this, and I'm like, oh, duh, right? I can begin to source my feeling of support from other places, from the true place, right? Which is really energy. It's source energy. It's feeling that support from the divine, from my spirit team, from God, whatever you want to call that, right? The creator, all that is, the universe. That is where my support, my unconditional feeling of support must come from. I can no longer look for it in money, because that messes up my energy. It puts me into a place of lack, which obviously is going to slow down things, right? And it makes me codependent, which is repelling the money that wants to show up for me. It's repelling the abundance that wants to show up for me, because money does not want me to need it, right? It wants me to just be like, hey, we have a relationship, we're cool, we're best friends, like, I love you, you love me, come and hang out. But when I have to circulate you, that's cool. When you come in, that's cool. I don't feel any less of a person, regardless of what you're doing. I don't feel any more, better than anyone or less than anyone or whatever. It's a pure, like, clean, pure energy, right? Pure energy exchange, clean. Money in, money out. Doesn't change how I feel. Doesn't change how I see myself. Right? Like, that is really where I'm going, and where a lot of people are being called towards, right? Because that, like, needing money to make me feel supported truly is not me being in my power. Like, let's take it to that next level, right? It's not me being in my power at all, right? That's me giving away my power to outside circumstances. It's not me feeling free either. That's not freedom, right? Codependency is not freedom. I can't be codependent on money and feel free. Right? So that was a very interesting discovery for me this morning. And I wanted to share that with you, because there's been so many layers, so many levels to this, so many layers of this journey. Right? And so now I'm like, okay, now that I know that, I can just tune in unconditionally to feeling supported. And money doesn't have to be there for me in order to feel that way. Right? And it can be a very sneaky energy to be a codependent, because it literally feels sometimes like your existence is on the line. It can feel very deep, it can feel very heavy, it can feel very intense, right? But it doesn't mean that it's true, right? Even if you're feeling some very strong feelings around the codependency and like needing something, or I've got to have it to feel better, or whatever it is, even if it's a very heavy feeling and uncomfortable for you, it doesn't make it true, right? So feel into that for yourself. Where are you being codependent? And with money, and maybe other areas of your life too. There can often be mirrors to other things, right? But we're talking about money here. So where are you being codependent with money? Where are you like, I need this to feel, or I need this to be, or when I get this amount of money, I'll be enough. When I have X amount of clients, I'll be a good enough coach. When I have, $1 million, I'll finally be worthy. I'll finally get the approval of my parents. I'll finally be, enough. I'll finally be whatever. I'll finally feel loved. I'll finally feel worthy. I'll finally feel safe, right? If those patterns are playing under the surface, you are engaging in a codependent relationship with money, and it is blocking your ability to receive it to the fullness that you can and deserve. Does that make sense? So ask yourself that question, and then begin to say to yourself and practice and integrate, because it isn't enough just to understand this. You've got to begin to integrate this in your everyday life, right? Where can I source this myself? How can I receive this same feeling? Or how can I validate who I am? How can I get myself permission separate from this person or place or condition, right? Because again, this is a very conditional living, needing something outside of yourself to satisfy a feeling or who you are, validate who you are, is conditional living, and it's ego driven, right? That's not soul driven, that's ego driven. So it's part of a spiritual journey, it's part of an abundance journey, it's part of your journey just coming back to yourself and coming back to wholeness again, right? And money can be a very amazing teacher, and it can be some painful lessons at times. Trust and believe, I know, but it is teaching you so much about yourself and about, you know, what things there are for you to shift, and how you can become a more powerful person, and how you can tap into your limitless self, your free self, your most abundant self, your most high vibing, high flying, high frequency self, right? Your most aligned, on your highest best path self. Money is an incredible teacher for that. It'll show you so many places that the light wants to be let in. So do the work and you will eventually get there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the replay, and I will catch you here soon, hopefully soon. I'm going to be doing more live streams here, so just look out for me in the future, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Much love.